talking to CWyatt-Morley2, who is the founder of an organization called WOMEN, and she's given us some information about her many years of working in HIV and AID and some of the problems and some of the challenges that she has been able to overcome. And of course, let's pick up where we left off by having you to sort of give us a retrospective in terms of the last 17 years that you've been involved in this fight against HIV and AIDS.
Well, when I was first diagnosed, again, 17 years ago, there were little to no resources in the community that addressed me as a woman, especially an African-American woman living with the disease, hence the creation of the organization. From there, as you know, I became an author, and that actually launched me on a journey to do work internationally. I became very involved with a lot of national boards, a lot of international boards, and I have seen HIV and AIDS in Africa, as we have discussed, and I've seen it in Thailand, and I've seen it in Warsaw, Poland, and many different countries. I've seen it in China as recently as 2009. So AIDS in other countries is just as devastating as
international.
Yes, it is. It is. It is an internet. It doesn't care at all. Like I had said, it only cares that you be human. And so I've seen it in the United States, and of course living with it. But I've also seen it outside the borders of the United States. So I've been blessed to be able to provide services to individuals throughout the city of Nashville, throughout the state of Tennessee, and then also on an international level. And currently we're working with a group in Kenya to try to take some services over in Kenya because the need is so great, and they have reached out to the organization, so we're trying to support them. And you were talking about the retrospective. It is, HIV 17 years ago is the same HIV as it is today. It truly is. The stigma that was there 17 years ago, that same stigma is here today, except, you know, it's a little different. The stigma has more to do now with people don't talk about it.
More sophisticated.
It is. People don't talk about it. People think that, oh, if I get infected, I'll just take a pill, having no idea what the medications are and the ramifications of taking these antiretroviral therapy medications are. And they just think that it won't happen to me because of, you know, because of my economic background or because of my education or for whatever reason, people are lulled into believing that HIV won't happen to them. Unfortunately, I was one of those ones too. We categorize the individuals that have HIV as somehow beneath us, somehow dirty, somehow apart or separate, and that is truly not the case. But HIV, again, is just like it was 17 years ago, and unfortunately, we're entering in now well into the third decade of HIV, and as you know, African Americans, especially African American women, are disproportionately impacted by this disease. Hence, the reason for my organization and the expansion and the work that we're doing, because again, the African American community is one of the primary, not the only, but one of the primary communities that believes that HIV is affecting a different segment of the population, and it is affecting our population as well.
So it's not my disease, it's somebody else's disease.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And when we think that it is someone else, or we think that we can't get it, that is a level of denial that somehow can hurt us tremendously, because HIV doesn't care about any of that. You know, it just wants to, and when you take a look at me, you don't know whether or not I'm infected or I'm not infected. But as I said, I'm a person living with AIDS, and we need to make sure, number one, that we know our HIV status, and that whoever it is that we are having unprotected sex with, that we're having, that we know their status, and that we're using precautions and protection in order to protect ourselves. It is about empowering ourselves to make sure that we're making right choices.
And so after 17 years, it seems that this is the conversation that we had when I first met you, and we first talked about it, and you had your book and your videotapes and all of those things.
All of that.
And it seems to be the same conversation, and I think I've had it time and time. When will we learn? I mean, is this the way it's going to be, or what?
You know, I don't want to look at it that way. I don't want to look at it that it's going to be this way. What I want to do is thank God for the opportunities such as this, to talk about it, to open up the platform for discussion, to have African Americans at the table for decision making, which is a problem, as you're very much aware. So I don't want to look at it in a negative perspective, because what's important to me as a mother is to make sure that my children do not become infected. So education, 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 education. And if we can utilize platforms such as yours and other platforms in the community and on a national and international level, I really believe that once we continue to horn it in and continue to discuss it and continue to put it in people's face, because they think that it has somehow subsided, because it's not
that's
talked
the
about a
impression
lot.
that you get.
Exactly.
You hear folks talk about it. As a matter of fact, I think we have more television shows on it than anybody else, because we try to do at least once or twice, at least doing all the series.
Right, exactly. And I commend you for that, because not every network or not every individual that has access to a media outlet will allow HIV to, to be a part of the conversation. And it needs to be a part of our conversation, not only as African Americans, but as people in Davidson County and Nashville and also in the state and throughout the United States, because it is infecting and affecting hundreds of thousands of families.
Now the virus, why don't you say something about the virus itself? Because we still have new individuals, even though we've been talking about the causes and et cetera for the last many years.
Right.
There are those out who, for the first time, this might be their first opportunity to find out exactly the nuts and bolts of the disease. Talk about it from that perspective.
Well, the difference between HIV and AIDS, and of course you get a lot of different types of stuff on the internet, which is untrue, and it's really good for people to make sure that their resources are important when they're working towards trying to get legitimate information. But there is a difference between HIV and AIDS, and you have to have HIV in order to get AIDS. And HIV enters into your body either through breast milk or through unprotected sex, whether that is vaginal sex or anal sex or oral sex, because oral sex is a mode of transmission, which we seem to believe that it's not, as long as we can stay virgins, that kind of thing. And we also need to understand that once HIV enters the body, it begins to take over. That's exactly what HIV does. It takes over, it begins to build up the itself and fight and fight and fight to destroy the immune system.
And let us take this second commercial break, and we'll be back with you. We'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The topic is